and welcome to Unsilenced, Voices That Matter. I am Kate Ibansi. Today's episode is part of our Fresh Start series. Conversations with people who have had to begin again. Not from comfort, not with a clear plan, but from scratch. And I want to sit with that for a moment. Because starting from scratch is not a phrase. It means something ended, something shifted. Something was no longer possible. And yet, you still keep going. That's what today's conversation is about. My guest is Josephine Zibā, Isiakpona, an education entrepreneur, a caregiver advocate, and someone who rebuilt her life from the ground up. She speaks about fear, healing, mindset, and becoming what she calls a more mindful and superb human. But what stayed with me most is this. She is still in it. She is still learning. She's still extending grace to herself. And I think that's where the most honest conversations live. Zibā, I'm really glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Unsilenced, Voices That Matter.
It's great to be here.
Okay. Who is Zibā? not the bio that I have reeled out. Who is Zibā, the person, the you? Who is Zibā?
Okay, so that's a very good question to ask because I don't get asked that question often. But I would say at my core, I'm a child of God. That's my first identity. That's where every other aspect of me is sourced from. I'm a child of God. I'm an adventurer. I love to explore new places. I'm a kind person, which is probably why my natural inclination is to be in the care economy. I care deeply about people, and I'm very conscious about being human and humane. What else? I love to have fun. I'm a woman of many talents. So many talents. I'm a voice actor as well. I do voiceovers for commercials, for animes, and all that. I mean, there's so many parts to me. So many parts to me. And I love it. I love every part of me.
That's good. That's good to know. I know that in your introduction earlier from, the information I had previously, you talked about being an education entrepreneur. What does that mean? Because you didn't mention that now when you're introducing yourself.
Okay. So I didn't want to mention what's in the bio. So education entrepreneur means I'm in the education business. But it's really because that's the category that I find myself in Nigeria. But I like to describe myself as being an entrepreneur in the care economy, not just education. What we do at my organization is more than care. It is more than education. It's care, end-to-end care for the children, and as much as possible as well for the families that have children in our establishment.
Okay, great. I see. Because I wanted to ask, those are two, for me, they are very distinct identities. Being an education entrepreneur and being a caregiver advocate. Those are two very distinct identities. And I was trying to think, okay, how does this make? I think you have practically alluded to it. So today's episode, we talked about fresh start. Yeah. I themed this series a fresh start series. And it's because I know that there are several stories that speak to people starting from the beginning. And like when I started at first, I said a fresh start means something must have ended. Something stopped at a point. And so you are beginning afresh. It's like rebooting your phone. Yeah. Maybe it hung, and then you have to go on factory reset. And so a fresh start for me is actually that factory reset where you press the factory reset and you are starting again irrespective of where you were. So, and then looking at, thinking through in my head, I'm thinking, Zibā, some of the things you said, some of the things you alluded to really got me thinking. And I just want to leave, like I said, this is a conversation. I may have questions in my head I want to ask, but I want it to be as seamless as possible. I want you to just open up, just speak from what you're comfortable speaking about, of course. But most importantly, where do we start? The story of your fresh start. Where did it start from? What stopped?
So there are many points in my life where I think I've had to press the reset button. And I think those little buttons I've had to push along the way were actually building resilience in me and some sort of reference point that, if this were to ever happen to you, you can start all over. It's fine. It's okay. I'll talk about my first major fresh start. So after secondary school, I was sent off to Jos to enroll in the University of Jos. But then there was the Jos crisis that came up, and my father said, "You're not going back there. Just be at home. Let me be seeing my child." It was strange because I come from a family where everyone kind of schooled in the north, and I didn't get that chance at the secondary school level. So for university, I was very excited, like, hey, I'm going to the north, I'm going to learn Hausa. I love Hausa people so much. So I was just excited. But then I had to come back, and getting into a university down here in the West meant that, you need a scene, there's a minimum, I can't remember what the requirements, I think 5 credits or so. But in math, I didn't have a credit. I think I had a D in math. And so it was obvious that I needed to write JAM again. And I needed to write, WAEC all over again. And I was so scared of math. I didn't know what to do. My brother just encouraged me. He said, "You know what? You have to do this. I don't know how you're going to do it, but you need to do it. I need to pass. Because in this house, we don't recite exams." And, this is the first time. This is the first time this is happening. That somebody's going to have to write JAM again and WAEC again. So you just have to do. We understand. It's because you had to come back from Jos and all of that. So I was enrolled in some lesson. I think it was called, I can't remember the name now, but I was enrolled in that lesson, and I started again. I had an amazing teacher. His name was Mr. Moses. I'm looking for him everywhere just to say thank you, who demystified math for me. And, suffice to say, I wrote the exams and I did well and I got into school. So that was a major first reset button for me. And then fast forward many years later, I'd gotten married, had 2 children, but it was such a rocky marriage. It was a rocky relationship and then a rockier marriage. I think deep down I knew it wasn't going to last, but I kept holding on until I got to the point where I thought I was going to lose my mind completely, and I decided to leave. And I was so scared to leave because it meant I was going to start all over again. And, I was thinking of what everybody would say. It was terrible. But yeah, eventually I had to bite the bullet, and I said, you know what? I can start all over again. Worst case scenario, I'll sell tomatoes under the bridge. I'll sell tomatoes. I mean, so many things are going through my mind. Worst case scenario, I'll sell tomatoes under the bridge and I will be fine. And so I left with my 2 kids, and boy, oh boy, am I fine. I am really fine. and that was a major reset button for me, a
Wow.
very major one.
That's
And I
that's
thought it was
heavy.
the end.
That's heavy.
Yeah, I honestly thought it was the end until the last one I've had came about. I had a great job. I really loved my job. Maybe not so much the environment and some of the people I worked with that I considered toxic and very negative in their way of thinking. But I loved my job. And I think so many things have been going on in my life. I was having emotional issues, unresolved emotional trauma, um, stress, physical stress. I think there was just a lot going on in my body and in my mind that I didn't have that self awareness to just pick up, the scent of it and say, oh, you need to maybe relax and fix some things. And then I had some sort of emotional breakdown. My friends say it wasn't an emotional breakdown, but that's how I kind of describe it. I had some sort of emotional breakdown, and I had to leave that job eventually, if because I did something that was completely out of character. I was so shocked about it. I couldn't believe that I would do such a thing, but I just said, you know what, I need to just leave. Another major reset button
reset.
with 2 children, no job, no savings, nothing. And at that time, I had just started setting up the school. So the school hadn't even started yet. It was really that. I think that's the toughest one. That was the toughest one for me. But like I said, I think little, I've been pushing the buttons bit by bit.
Yeah.
And at that point, I just said, you know what? Fear is the enemy here. It's nothing else. It's just fear.
Listening to you have practically summarized the whole fresh start conversation. Because when I was introducing the fresh start, I talked about it could be anything. It could be health, it could be relationship, it could be career. For me, I have had to have several fresh starts. In every way imaginable. And so when you talked about school, talked about marriage, it seemed like you just covered the whole spectrum of what fresh starts are. But I can say, okay, school, at that stage, you are young. And so it's easy to bend and start again because everybody has gone to school. I have to go to school. But then when it gets to relationship, marriage, there are children involved. Pressing that restart button is a huge sacrifice. How did you navigate that?
So I think I know this may sound so cliche, but it was honestly God that helped me through it. I was in that very abnormal very abnormal situation for about 7 years. I think it was 6.5 years. And it was really courage. I'm trying not to beat about the bush, but the word is courage. One is to have the courage to say, this is what I want, this is what I need, and this is what I'm willing to do to, that just have some sort of alignment between what I need and what I want. It's courage. I had to look inwards. What do I want? What do I need for myself, for my children? They weren't supposed to be born into this kind of situation. That's not what God wants for any child. So what do I need to do? And I realized I needed a whole lot of courage, because the only thing stopping me was what people were going to say, what I thought people were going to say, what I thought people were going to think. But people are not going to do anything.
True.
They're not going to feed me, clothe me, put a roof over my head, nobody was even going to hug me. So I had to really, really go deep inside and find the courage to say, you know what? It's my life, it's my safety first and that of my kids. This is what I need to do. I really had to find that fine balance somewhere there. It's all courage. My favorite saying is fear is the enemy. Fear is the enemy. I still said it to one of my kids yesterday. I said, look, no human being is the enemy. The enemy is fear, and the father of fear is the devil.
Is the devil.
That's the real enemy to humans and to whatever it is humans want or need to achieve. The devil hates us so much. He'll do anything to destroy us. He even hates devil worshippers too. So, but anyway, that's a story for another day. But yeah, it's really courage, and we can only find courage in God.
You know, what you have just said, I've worked in women's rights for years, and that is one thing that is actually missing. You know, in the interventions for families, you find out this same whole conversation around courage. You are afraid. If I live here, where will I go to? Who will I turn to? What will I do? And because human beings have the natural instinct to want to shy away from responsibility, we find it easy to hide and say, oh, okay, it's because of the children I'm staying. And then at the end of the day, you end up destroying the life of those children, and you are not even any better for it. So I want to applaud your courage, right? Because it's something that is still missing. Is missing in a lot of intervention for families going through such situation. At times, it's just for the safety of even the couple, for them to be apart. It could just be simply for their own safety, you know, and then importantly for the safety of the children ultimately. But then let's take the first step forward. We talked about career. A lot of us are on jobs that we do not like. We are doing jobs. We are taking up roles that we do not love. We are doing it simply because we think, let me just have food to eat. Or the fear, again, the fear of, if I now somebody said is leaving the known for the unknown. Yes. Someone says, why are you leaving the known for the unknown? Meanwhile, that known can actually be what is limiting you, right?
The devil, you know.
Yeah, the devil, you know, there are a lot of ways we try to encourage ourselves and make it look like, you want to leave certainty for uncertainty. You are leaving the known for the unknown. Meanwhile, that known is draining you. You wake up in the morning and your heart is like turning a million places. Oh God, I'm going back there, but because of what I will eat, let me stay. How did you manage that, especially knowing that now I have kids, I have responsibility. I've walked away from a supposedly safety net, and now I'm on my own with this student. What do I do? How did you navigate that?
So I think as soon as I keep coming back to fear, because it's really it can decapacitate a human being. When I identified fear as the enemy, I became fearless, and so I view life from, what do I need? What do I need? What do I need? I need food to stay alive, but I don't need to eat 3 square meals a day. I need a certain amount of water to keep going. So, you know, I just look at things from a functional point of view. And so I think because my mindset began to change as I was healing, my mindset too was being healed, because my soul had been so scarred. And when your soul is scarred, it affects the way you see life. It affects your mind a lot. So as my mindset began to improve and align more with God's mindset, I redefined success. So we think that success is go to school, graduate, get a good job. Good job is not is defined in terms of how much
you get
they
paid.
pay,
Mhm.
not necessarily if they care about you as a human, if their values align.
Aligns with your personal
Yeah,
values. Yeah.
not necessarily that. So that's how we define success. Build a house, have cars, children go to the best private schools. That. But when my mindset started to change, I realized that success wasn't in my bank balance. It was really in fulfillment, and it was in joy.
Mm.
It was in doing things that would genuinely give me joy. So for anybody to even want to pivot from where they are to where they would like to be, the first thing that needs to change is your mindset. You cannot pour what's it called, new wine into an old
Wine skin,
skin bag. It's gonna burst. So your mind needs to change. You must first start to ask yourself, okay, what are some of the things that limiting me where I am right now? To be honest, not everybody is going to be an entrepreneur, but we are all called to be either entrepreneurs or intrapreneurs, meaning that you can be working for an organization and you make the organization wealthy, and you in turn become very wealthy, and not just in money, but in terms of impact and influence, So we need to start redefining what we call success. I use Jesus and the apostles, the apostles, as an example. They were all businessmen, one way or the other. But after they were called by Jesus, they redefined success. Success for them became all about pushing the gospel, pushing it amongst the Jews, amongst Gentiles. That was success. That was really where they got fulfillment from. And the rest was just a support system to that one thing. So if we can read it, for me, it was the game changer was really working on my mindset and then getting to a point where I was like, what really do I need to be happy in life? Because happiness is a core value for me. But one of the things I did was I had to define my values, like write it down, not just what my parents used to tell me. Remember the home you come from now. I had to take up a pen and write down what my values were, what's driving those values and things like that, so that I can communicate it effectively to people around me, especially my children. So if we're able to just change our idea of success, and for me, success had to do with making other people's lives easier in terms of childcare, in terms of care for the elderly. That's what makes me a successful person, if I'm able to do that. Because I know there are other things that will come with it. Wealth will come, all those things will come. But there are other beautiful things that come with that. But that was it for me.